Hello and welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share this video with your friends and family, and stay tuned because today we are diving into one of the most heartbreaking and dramatic stories to come out of Southern Africa. A story that has left South Africans shaken, Zimbabweans questioning, and the entire region asking, how could this even happen in this day and age? This is the tragic but also miraculous story of a South African man who was denied medical treatment in Zimbabwe, only to later be saved in a way that shocked South Africa to its core. Imagine this. A man, a fellow African, crosses into a neighboring country with the hope of finding help. He is in pain, his body is failing, and all he wants is treatment, a chance at survival, a chance to live. But when he arrives, instead of compassion and care, he is met with rejection. Instead of doctors opening their doors, bureaucracy and cold rules stand in his way. This is exactly what happened. Reports say that the South African man, whose name authorities are keeping under wraps for privacy reasons, found himself in a medical crisis while in Zimbabwe. Desperate for help, he went to one of the hospitals in Harare, pleading for medical attention. But to his shock and the disbelief of many who have since heard the story, he was flatly denied treatment. The reasons given. According to witnesses and insiders, it came down to the issue of nationality and the ongoing crisis in the Zimbabwean healthcare system. Many hospitals there are already stretched beyond capacity, with shortages of medication, equipment, and doctors. Some say that the hospital prioritized citizens over foreigners. Others suggest it was about payment guarantees and the lack of medical insurance. But whatever the explanation, it left the South African man stranded, sick, and clinging to life in a country that closed its medical doors to him. This denial of treatment sparked outrage the moment the news broke. South Africans could not believe that a man from their soil, in desperate need of medical help, had been turned away in a neighboring African nation. The bond between Zimbabwe and South Africa has always been complicated but also deeply intertwined. Families, trade, work, and history connect the two nations. So when word spread that one of their own had been refused help, many saw it as not just an act of cruelty but a betrayal of African brotherhood. But the story does not end with rejection. In fact, it takes a turn so dramatic that it almost feels like a script from a movie. After being denied treatment, the man was reportedly left to fend for himself. His condition worsened, and many feared he would not make it. That's when the miracle happened. A group of South Africans who were in Zimbabwe at the time, some businessmen and some ordinary travelers, heard about his plight. Shocked and angered by what had happened, they took matters into their own hands. They pooled their money together, arranged private transport, and somehow managed to get the man across the border and back into South Africa. But here's the twist that shocked the nation. On arrival back home, he was rushed to a hospital in Limpopo. Doctors later revealed that had he waited just a few more hours, he might not have survived. The private group of rescuers had essentially saved his life, stepping in where official systems had failed. Their bravery and compassion stood in sharp contrast to the cold rejection he faced earlier. South Africans hailed them as heroes, ordinary citizens who became lifesavers when bureaucracy turned its back. The man's survival story spread like wildfire on social media. Videos, posts, and hashtags poured in. People debated fiercely because of the cruelty of being Zimbabwe's collapsing healthcare system by a thread. Others pointed fingers at South African leaders stepped in and saved why their citizens are left that human compassion can triumph without proper protections. But one thing is certain, cross-border this will not be the last time such a case and many demanded that something be done to ensure no one else faces such humiliation and danger again. Or will more lives be put at risk before change comes? What shocked South Africa the most was not only the cruelty of being denied treatment but also the reminder of how fragile life can be when borders, treatment under their strained system, and broken systems, or should humanity always come first regardless of borders and bureaucracy? What if it had
And
been
what
the other way
responsibility
around?
should South Africa take
Would
to
South
ensure
Africa
its
deny
citizens
a
are protected
Zimbabwean in
abroad?
need of urgent care?
The debate is far
Some
from
argue
over,
yes,
and this
given
story
the
has
strained
opened a
relations
wound
and
that runs
overloaded
deep between the
hospitals
two
in
nations.
SA as well.
Thank you for
Others
watching.
insisted that
Make
no
sure
matter
you
the
subscribe,
circumstances,
share this story
denying
with
someone
others,
life-saving
and let's
treatment
keep
is
the
simply
conversation
unacceptable.
alive. Because
Meanwhile,
sometimes,
Zimbabweans
talking about
themselves were
these issues
divided.
is the first step toward
Some
making sure
defended the
such
hospital,
tragedies never
saying
happen
the
again.
system is collapsing, and
Would you
even
like me to
citizens
also craft
sometimes
a
die in
title and
corridors
description
waiting
for
for
this
help?
video the way I usually
They
do for
argued
your
that the
YouTube
doctors
scripts?
and staff were simply overwhelmed and could not prioritize a foreigner when their own people are dying daily. But others condemned it, saying it was a stain on Zimbabwe's image, proof that humanity is being lost in the cracks of crisis. The South African man is now recovering, but his story has left behind a storm. Politicians are under pressure to address this issue, and ordinary people are left shaken by the thought that one day, it could be them or their loved ones in such a situation. For many, this was more than just a story about one man, it was a wake-up call about the state of healthcare in Southern Africa, about the fragility of life across borders, and about how easily one can be left to die if systems decide you are not a priority. This story is both tragic and uplifting. Tragic because of the cruelty of being denied care when life was hanging by a thread. Uplifting because ordinary citizens stepped in and saved a life, proving that human compassion can triumph where politics fails. But one thing is certain, this will not be the last time such a case sparks outrage. The question remains, will governments learn from this, or will more lives be put at risk before change comes? So South Africa, what do you think? Was Zimbabwe right to deny treatment under their strained system, or should humanity always come first regardless of borders and bureaucracy? And what responsibility should South Africa take to ensure its citizens are protected abroad? The debate is far from over, and this story has opened a wound that runs deep between the two nations. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe, share this story with others, and let's keep the conversation alive. Because sometimes, talking about these issues is the first step toward making sure such tragedies never happen again. Would you like me to also craft a title and description for this video the way I usually do for your YouTube scripts?